Be honest, be transparent. You might hurt somebody's feelings right then and there, but they're going to appreciate it because you told them what they needed to hear.
Welcome to the Young Athletic. I'm with Ronny Shields, the Director of Coaching of Ventura Surf. How are you doing today?
Doing well. Thanks for having me, Patrick.
Yeah, thanks for coming on. How long have you been the DOC for surf?
Pretty much since the beginning.
Yeah?
Yeah.
When is the beginning? Last year, 2 years ago, 10 years ago?
We're coming into our third year. Jack caught wind that I was planning on stepping down from the Eagles and kind of caught me at a perfect time. So the rest is soon to be history.
Yeah? Have you enjoyed it so far?
It's been incredible.
Yeah?
The journey of being part of a creation of a club and looking at really changing culture from a soccer perspective has been a lot of fun and challenging as well.
It's almost like, you just get to be a part of something that you're building. And I think that's really fun.
100%.
It's kind of like working for yourself or working for an employer. You just have that kind of entrepreneur spirit.
100%, yeah.
Would you say you enjoyed it more than coaching a team, or would you say they're just different?
That's kind of a trick question. I love bringing people together. That's one of the things that is probably one of my biggest skill sets. So you're limited in doing that as a coach. You coach two teams, maybe you have 30 kids, 36 kids, add the families on top of that.
If you're lucky. If you're lucky, you have that many kids.
On the older ages. But those are all the impact that you could have. So in this role, having 15, 20 coaches that you're helping to grow and also being a part of the development of the players as well, there's just so many more people that you could touch.
I see. So you have a bigger influence, you would say,
100%.
as a DOC. Okay. Well, let's start at the beginning. Did you play soccer growing up? Did you play in high school? Did you play club?
I did. So started off at 4 years old in AYSO.
Local here?
No, I'm from the Pomona area.
Okay.
So grew up playing with Pomona, first team Pomona Panteras, first club experience after that. Then into Claremont Stars. Played for Arsenal, which is now Sporting Arsenal. And then wrapped up my career over at Samba, which is now LAFC with Keith West.
Okay.
Yeah.
Which one was your favorite?
Favorite is a hard word.
Or maybe just maybe the best at developing you, or maybe you had the best coach or the best team.
Yeah, I mean, I've had some incredible coaches along the way. Mike Hammond at Claremont Stars, not a lot of black coaches out there. And he did a really good job of just creating some core fundamentals with me. I was a difficult kid to coach.
Yeah?
But I would say the biggest impact was, without a shadow of doubt, was Keith West.
Who is Keith West, for all of us who don't know Keith?
Keith West, he is a coach at LAFC.
Okay.
And at the time when he was coaching me, he was the assistant at Cal State Northridge, and then went up taking over the women's program for a bit. Just taught me how to become a man at the end of the day. Had some very hard conversations with me, and I had never really had that as a player. And it just helped me develop the ability to be transparent with people and be honest, because in the long run, it made sense. It made life easier. So,
when did you have those conversations with them? What age were you?
17.
Okay. Okay.
17
I mean, that's
years old.
about the right time.
Yeah, 100%. And I think others had tried, and he was able to break through like no other coach.
Oh, interesting.
So, no knock on any of the other coaches. You guys all did some great work with me, so I appreciate that. But he was wildly impactful. And then had the opportunity to play under him at CSUN as well, and Terry, and was just around some incredible human beings there. Incredible human beings.
So what did he do to break through to you after all those coaches that tried and failed?
I was at a stage in my life where I wanted to further my education. Had some opportunities to play elsewhere, but didn't really have the sense of wanting to be there. And with Keith and, the remainder of the staff and the players that were there, it just made sense. But what Keith did as an individual, he would pull me out to the side. If I wasn't acting correctly, if I was, I was a little bit of a hothead, I'd get in on tackles when I probably shouldn't have. But that's just who I was as a player. I was kind of an enforcer. And
Interesting. That's not the impression you give off when you meet people as the enforcer. You're very calm, you're very agreeable, you're very patient with people. You think that sort of started with his impact on you?
I would say so. And I think I evolved as a player as well, because you get into playing against some of the more elite colleges. You're not going to be an enforcer with guys that are twice your size and have been hitting the weight room since a long period of time. So I had to evolve. I had to change. And who I was as a player versus who I was as a coach is very different.
Let's talk about it. What changed your perspective from going from a player to a coach?
Yeah, good question. So it all started off going into my second to last year of college.
Okay.
Got a call from Travis Kikogama, who was at Viewpoint High School. Hey, Ronny, we'd love to have you come out and help out with our boys.
Huh. So you were in college and you get a call from a coach, a high school coach, saying, "Come, would you like to come help us?" Mm-hmm. Okay.
And a lot of the people might not know who his names are this day. Travis Kikogama is the Zen master of soccer. In this community, I think the last game that he coached was a national championship game. And just, called it quits from there. And he's kind of in a similar situation where he wanted to play a bigger impact. So now he's helping athletes into that college progression at Viewpoint. But just the way he saw the game, the way he taught the game, he was always looking at developing the person versus focusing on anything that was grander than that. The simplicity of the way he taught was really impactful with how I started to coach.
So how did he do that? What was the simplicity, and how was it so effective?
Well, I think it was some simplicity, but also complex. The man had a book that was probably this thick with different exercises. But the way he broke down every single training session, he would fix the way I had a breakdown after a practice, after a game, just like the fine tweaks of, how to communicate with certain players. Coach K was great.
Yeah, that's something I'm working on, is like my own playbook, but sort of practice sessions and drills that are effective. And I have 2 teams right now, and I like to experiment. Like, I'll do one drill with one team, and I'll do it again with the other team, like the next day, but slightly tweak it and just sort of try to get it better every time. But having a detailed plan like that, I think, is huge for coaches.
100%. So, I've been lucky to be able to work with some highly, highly detailed coaches. And then I wound up getting hurt going into my senior year. And then that kind of started my coaching path over at Simi Valley Eclipse, which was great. And then had the opportunity of joining the Eagles back when Steve Sampson was the DOC. And his offices were 2 blocks away from where I worked during the day. So the amount of time that he and I spent together to really focus on what it means to be a coach and how to develop and focusing on curriculum and why you're doing certain things.
That's a big resource, right, to have.
Yeah. It really was. And, being kind of a young coach, I knew it was a good resource, but I didn't realize just how much he was going to change who I was as a coach as well. That was back in the day. I'd show up to coaches meeting and, you'd have Lou Lieberman, who was at UCLA at the time. You had so many just incredible coaches in the room.
Would he bring them to the coaches meeting, is what you're saying?
They'd all have to be there. Yeah. They'd all have to be there.
But how did the UCLA coach come to the Eagles meeting?
She was part of our West Valley association at the Eagles at the time.
Okay. So she was involved in the club.
Yeah.
Okay. She wasn't like a guest speaker.
No.
Okay.
And she, gosh, I wish she was closer, because that is a person that I would love to have teach my kids.
Yeah. Is she still coaching?
She's still coaching. I believe she's at San Diego State now. She's the head there. So,
have you ever wanted to coach college?
it's a really good question. I haven't.
No.
I haven't. In my day to day, I do have my full time career, which is in recruitment. So I wanted to just focus on the youth process. I felt like that's where I could be the most impactful. So yeah, it never really crossed my mind to get into college recruiting. How about yourself?
I do think about it, but now that the NIL stuff has come out, and it's really like you just buy players, players that you can afford, or you have a track record of winning national championships and players want to come play for you. I used to think about it more, but I also just enjoy this age group that I have, It doesn't pay all the bills, so you have to get creative, but I do feel like I'm in a good place right now.
Nice.
with these kids.
It's a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Teaching, development, life lessons.
We had our
love those
first
ages.
I wouldn't say road trip, but experience overnight at a hotel for the State Cup this year. And it's just, it's fun to see the boys in a different environment, have fun with each other, go swim in the hot tub, kick all the adults out of there. They were like, when we first showed up, there was 20-something-year-olds, and they saw us and like, oh, we got to get out of here. So I kind of felt bad, but at the same time, I wanted the kids to have a fun experience.
They got to enjoy it.
Yeah.
Got to enjoy it. I think what a lot of coaches forget about is without the love of the game, doesn't matter where you are, you're going to burn out.
Mm-hmm.
So instilling that love and instilling, that community amongst those players is huge, because those are going to be friends for life.
Yeah, I mean, that's the whole goal. To because I was burnt out in college for sure. I think after my last 2 years of college, I just didn't go to the weight room anymore. Didn't really train that much in the off season. I was just ready to be done, and somehow I never thought I'd be back coaching, but I am. Just it pulled me back into it.
Brought you back. Well,
Yeah.
That's good. That's good.
So how do you coach your kids to not burn out and to have a love for the game?
Yeah, that's a really good question. So, in coaching, especially on the younger side, is doing things outside of practice, right? You think of just simple exercises or simple things, like juggling.
Crucial.
Right? The amount of players that I see that still can't juggle at the younger age, it shows me that they're not on the ball all the time.
Yeah.
So making it fun, doing prizes, but goal setting with that.
Mm-hmm.
I still remember this. Her name was Casey. She had the ability of juggling 6 times before we went on a break in June. She came back being able to juggle just over 400 on a consistent basis.
Wow.
Which is 15 minutes a day. So that player, without even having games, scrimmages, training, fell in love with the game on her own.
Mm-hmm.
And I think for me, that's the biggest thing. You can't force a player to fall in love with the game.
Mm-hmm.
They need to find that love on their own.
Mm-hmm.
So that's just one of the things that I would do, because then the kids start wanting to learn how to do tricks. So what do? They turn to YouTube. Well, maybe they did back in the day. Now it's TikTok or whatever it is. So they learn tricks. They're going down the rabbit hole. Next thing you know, they have explored soccer from a video perspective for a couple of hours. So the amount of interaction with the sport becomes that much more immense. So it's just figuring out different ways of being able to plug that in so the players start to just live for it.
Yeah, I think YouTube's a great tool, but also just like soccer in general so much is on TV so much more.
So much more.
The World Cup, we're getting the World Cup, Messi in the MLS now. It's very exciting. Yeah, if kids can take advantage of those opportunities, there's just so much more than when we had growing up.
So much more. We had just the Mexican League on Univision. I remember I would twist my dad's arm to turn off football and put it on actual football.
He's a football fan?
Yeah, he's the athlete of the family. Played football in college, won a national championship actually.
Okay.
But yeah, and he fell in love with the game. He saw my
Through
passion. You? I think he just found the light at a later age in life. Saw the pureness of the sport.
Had a revelation.
No, but I think he had a lot of fun watching me play, and just wanted to be a part of the journey. I mean,
Yeah.
and from a parent perspective, I couldn't ask for much more. He was kind of beyond or very early in his days, to be able to understand I had a hard day, I had a hard game, would not bring up the game to me. Sit in silence till I would talk first.
That's important.
And I think it was really nice. So we were able to create an incredible bond through that. Yeah, he probably wanted me to play football or other sports, but
Did you have any desire to play other sports?
I didn't. Well, let me take that back. When I was probably 6 years old, I wanted to play basketball at North Carolina.
Okay.
That was my goal. And then I realized I'm going to be pretty short. So, but I love the game of soccer.
Yeah.
I always joke with my parents. I'm like, you guys made the mistake of putting me in AYSO before anything else. Because just the joys of it, being able to run around, get energy out, score goals.
What position did you play?
Growing up, like every kid who was fast, I played up top.
Oh.
I played up top growing up, and then as players started to get faster, kind of worked my way back. The club ranks, played a lot of the 6, and then in college wound up playing the 2 and the 3. So outside backs, yeah.
Yeah. Overlapping, attacking outside backs.
Oh, yeah.
Very, very common these days.
Oh, yeah. It was a lot of fun.
So if you think if you had tried football first, you might have fallen in love with football? Or was it just soccer called to you?
I don't know. As I talked about, loving to be an enforcer, I don't know. I don't know if I would have been able. I feel like I might have gotten bored at a young age. There's so much to teach. There's so many intangibles. Yeah. Where I think that probably would have been difficult for me at a young age, just because I was hyper and just wanted to run around.
That's what I love about soccer. It's like there's hardly any rules. You get a foul for pretty obvious things, but otherwise it's just like kick the ball, run around, try to score, try to defend. It's not complicated. And the refs, should basically let the game play most of the time. Except for when they miss offsides.
Yeah.
100 times in a row.
Well, it's funny you say that because I was having a conversation with my 5-year-old son. We were talking about he just started playing t-ball again this season, and we talked about all the integral parts of like what he had to do, and he's like, "Well, that's why soccer's nice. When you don't have the ball, you go get it, and when you have the ball, you go score." I'm like, "Oh, no, that's the game."
Yeah.
It is as simple as that. I mean, there's so many complexities to problem solving throughout the course of a game, but yeah, in a simple state, you don't have it, you get it, you have it, you score.
Yeah. I mean, it's not a hard premise to understand.
Not at all.
Yeah, I've never played baseball, but I've been told you have like all the little intricacies and details of scenarios that you have to sort of remember and memorize that that's too much.
Yeah, it's a lot.
And football with all those plays, no, I couldn't do it.
Well, not only that, I mean, to see some of the athleticism of like a 6'6" offensive lineman who could run a sub 540,
Yes.
it's frightening. As a 5'9", 5'10" guy, that is frightening.
Yeah.
So, hats off to them, and
Yeah.
because you have to be born that way to be able to play in certain sports, and football is
Yeah.
definitely one of them.
The last guy I had, his name is Zach Wasserman. He's a quarterback coach, coaches at Ventura High, I believe, as
Okay.
well. But he played at Penn State, Division I, big guy, 6'5". Like you look like a professional athlete,
There you go. You're built different.
And that's the great thing about soccer, is that it's not about athleticism necessarily. It's about your skill with the ball and then your decision making.
Mm-hmm.
So that's all I try to tell my kids. It's like, at some point, you guys are going to grow up to be big and fast and strong. And it's going to come down to your decision making. It's not going to come down to if you can outrun the guy. It's about, can you control the ball? Can you make a good pass?
Yeah, the simplicity of problem solving.
Yeah. Yeah. Let's go back again. What were you like in high school outside of sports? That's like
wow.
deep cut into Ronny.
So for me, I was branded a Band-Jock.
A Band-Jock?
Yeah, I was actually in the marching band as well. I played the tuba. So my identity was kind of split in half between music and soccer.
You still like music? You still into? Yeah.
Of course. But with the little ones, it's hard to listen to anything that isn't on like Moonbug Radio.
Don't know that one. Moonbug Radio.
Yeah.
But I can imagine it.
But that was, I mean, if anybody asked who was Ronnie Shields when I was in high school, it's like, oh, he was that guy that played soccer. I mean, that's just who I was as my identity. Always had a ball in my hand or at my foot and had jerseys on. Like, that's who I was. I was a quiet kid through my junior year. And then senior year, I became a little less shy. I'm sure those of you that know me probably are like, there's no way you're ever a shy kid, but 100% I was a shy kid.
And your senior year, you felt like you had some confidence or freedom to express yourself a little bit more?
Yeah, it was a very large school that I was at. We had just over 3,000 kids. So it was hard to blossom when you had, the upperclassmen. But again, I was just shy in nature. So I was still shy as a senior. I wasn't really boisterous or what may be. So,
and in college, do you feel like you were still that way?
College.
Because at some point, you're the DOC. You're talking to parents. You've transformed into this.
Yeah, well, it was really funny, like the evolution of college. So, I was the guy that a lot of people came to when they needed help with school. And that kind of just rolled into like a different persona on the soccer pitch. So I wouldn't necessarily consider myself a leader from the stuff on the field, but I feel like the impact off the field, especially with some of the lower classmen, once I started to get through the ranks, really just kind of would reach out just for assistance. I've always been that person that people feel very comfortable having real conversations with. So.
And how have those gone? I mean, that's sort of like a big opportunity / responsibility.
Well, that kind of goes into like what Keith West instilled. Be honest, be transparent. You might hurt somebody's feelings right then and there, but they're going to appreciate it because you told them what they needed to hear. And I do the same thing with parents, with kids. I'll sugarcoat it a little bit, maybe a little bit with kids, depending how old they are.
Yeah.
But yeah, honesty and transparency is huge.
Yeah.
Is huge. because everybody knows that they could call you at any point in time and you'll get a real answer. Or if I don't know it, I will tell them I don't know.
Have the parents have they responded well to that kind of approach?
They have.
Yeah.
They have. Luckily, there hasn't had to be too many really difficult conversations. Being in a larger organization like Eagles, you kind of heard a lot, you kind of went through a lot. So there really hasn't been anything that's been alarming or felt like I haven't at least heard of a certain scenario. So it's been pretty straightforward.
How long were you at Eagles?
Almost 13 years.
Almost 13 years. And were you just a coach, or did you get involved in admin stuff there as well?
Yeah, so I was a coach and kind of helped to spearhead their recruitment overall for the club. I wrapped up once my youngest son was born, and I turned into the person who did all the technical training of the ECNL and ECRL players on third-day trainings. And then I was paired up with Jared Wilson, so he would do performance work, and I would do the technical stuff with the players.
Yeah, I just reached out to Jared and tried to get him on here.
He's great people. He does a really incredible job, and it was great being able to work with him and dive in on just the performance side. I mean, he's gifted.
What would you say has been like the biggest improvement from the coaches, like to get the kids to learn quicker or more effectively?
That's a really good question, Patrick. And
like, how has the coaching improved, and you've seen it with the kids' improvement?
The thing that I started to do with the teams that I coached, I was lucky enough to be able to have an educator from the Philadelphia Union relocate to the Westlake area. And she showed me these are the different learning styles of these players. So we gave assessments for the players to see, are you a tactile, are you visual, are you an auditory? And then, of course, for myself, I took it as well, what type of teacher am I? What type of learner am I? So it really helped me understand, okay, I have 60% of my players are tactile learners. So I'm going to have to physically show them what we're going through, right? With that being said, I have 20% auditory learners. So I have to make sure I'm conveying messages the correct way. Then with the visual learners, okay, I'm going to have to follow up with an email as to what all is being taught so they could read through it or see diagrams to make sure that they understand. That was groundbreaking from a developmental perspective. So many coaches teach the way they learn. And a lot of us as coaches were in it because we're tactile learners. And for a big portion of our players, they're tactile learners. But having the understanding of where you are from a percentage perspective for those players leaps and bounds how much you see growth across the board, because you want them to all grow together.
Right. So you profiled all the kids at Eagles, or just on your team?
Just my team.
Oh, okay.
Just my team. Didn't have bandwidth for that. So yeah, and then just making the coaches aware of the different learning styles. Because I mean, you've probably heard all the time, or you've probably gone through it as a coach. Like, this kid just isn't getting it. Well, maybe they're an auditory, or maybe they're a visual. Maybe you have to draw it on the board for them to be able to see it.
Yeah.
So, just expressing to coaches, look, it's very easy for us to teach by speaking. It's a little bit harder to teach by writing. And for some, it's even harder to be able to teach by physically going through it. But it's important for us to be able to do that for all of our players.
What would you say is your best way to motivate your team? Outside learning, just to get them engaged. Because sometimes kids show up and they're just, they have no idea what day of the week it is. They're missing a shoe. Who knows what's up,
Goal setting.
Goal setting?
Oh, yeah. Goal setting. Individual goal setting. Team goal setting is massive. I mean, again, this conversation with my 5-year-old yesterday was deep. He wanted to be faster.
Okay.
He wanted to be faster and be a better dribbler of the ball. You know what we did this morning? 7 a.m. we're in our street and we're doing sprints. he has that goal. We're going to work on it. So same thing that I would do with my players, right? And juggling was always one that I would lean to, just because again, it touches on the ball. But I would always ask the players like, "Hey, what do you want to do as an individual?" And I still remember this, and I might embarrass her, so I'm not going to say her name, but she's a sophomore now, and she put down at age 5, not age 5, sorry, at age 7, all the top universities that she was planning on going to and playing and making a decision. She also, on another list, had a checklist of all the teams she wanted to beat and would cross them off as she would go.
Wow.
And so talking about goal setting, I think, is just really important at a young age because it gives you reasoning why you're working.
Can you explain your specific goal setting process with your team? Do they write it on a note? Do they give it to you? Do they email it to you?
Yeah.
Do you write it down? They tell it to you? How does your goal setting work for your team?
Yeah, no, that's a really good question. So it goes in different blocks. So the first goal setting that I always do is, okay, you could juggle X amount of times. We want to multiply that by 3 or 4 in the next month or 2 months. And then I'll talk about individual goal setting goals. So at the younger ages, I don't do self-evaluations. I start to do it a little bit of an older age. And then I actually realized, oh, they're going to be doing this with their parents. So a guided self-evaluation would actually be good. So I started to do that. Just to kind of see where they are, to focus on what they wanted to improve on. Because that'd be one of the questions in that self-evaluation. So we would have a copy of it, and we would, in the next evaluation, which would be the coach's evaluation of the player, we'd talk about that. How did we reach that goal? Do we want to refocus on our goal? What's next? And then the team goal. You're going to laugh at this. Every single time I picked up a team, my first parent meeting, my goal for this team is to win a national championship.
Wow.
That's my expectations. That's what I want to do.
Yeah, it's a lofty goal. That's
And it's a bit unfortunate. I mean, the closest I got was a regional final. And how I got there, I still have no clue. I had some exceptional players, but I was surrounded by Manny Martins at the time had Rampage. I had Scott Murray, who's now the Utah State women's coach. Scott Murray over at that time was SoCal United. Now he's one of the directors at MVLA. You had Andrew Montenegro was at the Eagles at that time, and now he's one of the assistants at Santa Barbara and director at Santa Barbara Soccer Club. And then I had Lalo on the other side of me over at Real, California. Those guys surrounded me at Simi Valley Eclipse, and somehow I was able to make it to the finals of State Cup and make it to the finals of regional.
It's pretty great.
No clue how that happened. Minus great players.
I remember Simi Valley used to have more prestige, and I feel like the Eclipse has sort of taken a step back.
Yeah, I mean it's hard.
Is that true, or I just don't? Maybe I don't know the club that well. Because I grew up playing club soccer here, until I was 13. I remember the Eclipse. I remember them having good teams. And now when I coach, I think we play an Eclipse team and they're just not very good.
I think it's hard to say because back in those days, it was Eclipse and it was Kickers, right? Those are the only two clubs that were based in Simi. And now I think there's 4 different clubs or maybe even 5 different clubs in Simi.
I see. So it got diluted.
Yeah, unfortunately, we're seeing that a lot just kind of across the club platform, right? Yeah. Now there's what used to be 5 clubs in Ventura County is now, we can't even count
200. There's a lot. It's too many.
So,
what's your diagnosis of how that came to be? Is it just ego? People saying, I don't want to be a part of this. I'm going to go start my own thing.
That's a good question. Ego probably is a portion of it. There are a lot of people that genuinely want to do things their own way, which I respect. Yeah, and I think one of the biggest things that I've seen is when we were kids, AYSO was a lot bigger.
Yeah.
People were a lot more willing to volunteer, and I've seen the lack of volunteers kind of hinder that growth in AYSO, which I think is really unfortunate. And because of that, you're seeing a lot of kids that maybe should be playing in that platform, playing in other platforms. So I think that's part of it. And there's also the prestige of being able to play club, which, I know for me and my own kids, it's where are you going to improve? Where are you going to become a better human being?
Yeah.
And less about what's on your shirt and how much that bill cost. So, and there's also the financial side of it too, right? Like when you're a coach in a club, you're limited with the amount that you could make, right? If you're starting your own thing, you have an endless cap. So there's entrepreneurship is a lot bigger than what it was. And there's a lot of knowledge and a lot of coaches are being educated. So, it was bound to happen. But I think when you get the right people together, you're able to bring the right people in and create something special. Because when you have the right numbers, especially from a player perspective, sky's the limit.
Well, that's what I've seen with you and Surf. Every time I look over, you got another team under the umbrella, and it's like, he's doing a good job.
Well, we're trying. We had a 5-year plan, 7-year plan, 3-year plan, and one of the biggest things we talk about is we want to develop players. So you'll see other clubs that will focus on recruitment of older ages and this, that, and the other. We went straight into the grassroots. We put together a fundamental academy, and with that alone, we were able to put together 4 or 5 teams. And I think one of the biggest things is we created an environment for our coaches to be able to teach one another. And I think one of my better characteristics is my ego is out the door. I'm no longer a coach. I'm a young director of coaching. So I'm going to make mistakes, and I'm okay with that. And there's coaches that are better than me in a lot of different facets, and I let those coaches teach what they know extremely well. So from a leadership perspective, taking the ego away, I think has really encouraged people to want to be in, to be able to showcase what they could do, right? Every coach has unique talent that could bring tangibles to the table that sometimes they don't get in other organizations. So I like to be able to just be in a situation where that's your idea. Okay, let's water it. How can I help? It's huge.
And you've been very successful with recruiting teams and coaches. I mean, I'm just, we were at the field the other day, and it's like 6 surf teams out there, and it's like, you just got that new coach from Seattle, as you told me about him. It's just like every time I look over, you guys are growing. So you're doing a good job.
Well, thank you. It's been a team effort too. I mean, Jack and Shirley and all of our coaches are recruiting too. And I think when you have that buy-in of all of the coaches, and they see a coach that's out there, they see a player that's out there, they talk about your club. So it might look like I'm doing everything. I'm not. I'm just another person in the organization that's helping it grow.
How many teams would you say you have? Could you ballpark?
Yeah, we'll likely be at 32 when tryouts are all said and done.
In Ventura County? Yeah, that's pretty impressive. And what's your oldest?
On the girls' side, they're all the way through like their senior year, so they'll be like an 07, 06 group. And we'll be top down on the girls' side. And just kind of focusing on filling the gaps a little bit on the boys' side. 2008's are our oldest on the boys' side.
What would you say is like, because I've noticed there are less older teams at the club level. Do you think that's just because they're tired of soccer, or they want to play other sports, or they're just growing up and, have other interests?
Yeah, that's a really good question.
Because there are so few like 06, 05 teams.
it hits a stage where the kids maybe just don't want to play anymore. I remember seeing the statistics of 70% of kids that start off at a young age will continue throughout their high school career. 70%. So that from a percentage perspective is just astounding to kind of think about. And then I also kind of look at this as well. It's like, because as you could tell, I'm super analytical. There's a variety of different reasons why. Sometimes all it takes is one coach for a kid to be done, regardless how much love of the game they have. Parents wanted it more than the kid. Is another big one. I think we have to do a bit more from a parent education perspective. I think that's really a big one. But yeah, and then you just have kids that just don't want to play anymore. Just as simple as that. I don't want to play in college. This is a lot of work. I want to focus on my education. I want to focus on my life outside and after college and high school. So I want to focus on that.
Yeah, I mean it's natural to have other desires, and if they don't want it, then
you can't force it.
Yeah.
So instilling the love. I would love to go back and see what my analytics were on that as a coach, because I feel like a lot of my players do wind up sticking around the game somehow, some way. It was really exciting. Like, two of the coaches we've brought into the club are two of my former players.
Really?
Which I'm thrilled about, to be part of their love of the game process where they want to come back and give back. Oh man, it gives me chills just thinking about it.
Yeah. Is this a proud feeling?
It is. And it was really funny because one of our new coaches actually gave me a Christmas ornament from back in 2006, and I was putting up the ornaments on the Christmas tree this year, and I recognized the name. I look at it and I send a text to her. I'm like, hey, this has been going on the tree every single year, and now, she had the former club that I was with on there, so now we got to make a surf one. We got to keep new memories going.
Yeah, that's awesome.
So yeah, it's just exciting from that end.
Have you gotten some good coaches' gifts over the years?
I've gotten some really good ones.
Yeah? What's been your couple of favorites?
I always like the personalized ones. Like I said, the Christmas ornaments, I probably have a handful from players from the past. Those turn into more sentimental, I would think. I got...
Do you have 1,000 soccer balls with kids' signatures on it?
Yeah, or just little unique things on there. One knitted something as an ornament. I think one of the most interesting one I had was gifted something for my first Sunbeam board. And I don't like to open gifts until whatever happens needs to happen. If it's a birthday, I wait till my birthday to open it up. So his dad got worried because I didn't say thank you. I said thank you, but it was never like, oh, this gift is awesome. Mm-hmm. He's just like, hey, did you open it up? I was like, no, I'm waiting. He's like, well, keep it safe. I'm like, oh my gosh, what is this? It was a box of these really expensive Cuban cigars. So, I was really thankful for that. But yeah, there's been some unique gifts over the years.
Funny. All right, let's switch gears to some professional soccer.
All right.
Are you a fan of any pros? Any leagues? Any teams?
Yeah, I'm a huge Arsenal supporter.
Mm-hmm.
Don't watch them nearly as much as I used to. Love the EPL. It's been nice to be able to see the German game quite a bit more, the Bundesliga, just with certain packages that we have now with different streaming options.
Yeah.
How about yourself?
I used to be, I'm still a Barca fan, Barcelona. I started watching in 2006 when Ronaldinho was in his prime, and I still think he's my favorite player just because he played with so much joy and so much creativity, He played, it wasn't like a contest, it wasn't a competition, he just played.
Yeah.
And it showed. And I think it was super helpful for Messi to see that, because Messi started when Ronaldinho was starting to leave, and I think he sort of, I mean, I wouldn't say inspired Messi, but I think he gave him a really unique perspective of just play the game,
Yeah.
play hard, play to win, and still just play.
Mm-hmm.
So, Barca fan, not doing too hot these days.
They're still top 3.
Yeah, but they're not going anywhere in Europe.
Yeah, well, that's Arsenal too, unfortunately.
Yeah. Yeah. It's too bad.
Yeah.
But yeah. So Arsenal,
yeah.
you like their new manager? Semi-new manager?
I do. I think he's done a really good job of getting them back to their roots of really possession-oriented soccer.
Yeah.
Being under the tutelage of Pep as well, I think it's starting to show what he's learned through the course of his career. And as a player with Arsenal as well, he did an incredible job as a leader. So it's really nice to be able to see them come back to the club and actually have success. Because that doesn't happen very often.
Yeah, coming back to the club doesn't guarantee success.
Mm-hmm.
Unfortunately, like Barca. Yeah. Have you noticed, this is my sort of interpretation or theory of modern soccer, there's not a lot of individual skill like there used to be. You taking someone on 1v1, they'll just pass it around you. The game is much more pass heavy than it used to be. Like, you don't see a lot of Messi or Neymar who will take someone one-on-one, will beat the line, and then make the defender commit, and that sort of, start the chain reaction of the defense falling apart.
Yeah, you know what? It's one-on-one dribbling is the most difficult skill, except for finishing.
Okay.
So, you just look at it from a statistical perspective. If you could connect 4 passes to beat 3 players versus 1 player to dribble 3-4 players, the likelihood of being able to connect those passes to find that endpoint is, let's say, 85% versus the dribble is going to be at 7%, 8%. So, I think there's a lot of emphasis on that. I think the flair of the game is still there in instances. You still have those individuals that will still go at players, but it's just, I want to say it's frowned upon. But yeah, you just don't see as much flair of it.
Yeah.
At the club level, you see a little bit more of it from like the actual national team level. I feel like you see a little bit more of that. There's a little bit more freedom to express themselves at the national level.
Do you think we are overcoaching?
100%.
Yeah?
100%. 100%.
In what ways?
Well, I think the biggest way is every single time a player, at least from what I see, is out there on the field, they're being coached. There's no free play. There's always somebody that could have an ability to correct a decision that was made versus self-exploring and making those mistakes on their own. Which is why I'm trying to develop a free play environment in this area. One of our coaches in Ojai has done an incredible job creating the open play environment there. Where on Sundays, it's like a group of 50 or 60 kids that go out there and just play.
Really?
No coaching, no nothing. The kids just play. And I remember growing up as kids, the amount of time that we spent away from coaches versus with coaches. I mean, with coaches was maybe 25% of what we did on the ball. Versus in today's society, it's 90.
Yeah.
95%. A lot of these kids, some of these kids don't even have a ball. They rely on the balls that the coach brings to practice.
I do not bring balls to practice. No way.
So remember we talked about competitions too. I would always bring a set of balls for every single player. And it was a competition of whose ball was dirtiest. Whose balls had a nick on it or whatever it may be, right? So they would be proud of here's my dirty black ball that I've been hitting against the wall all day, or I was on turf.
Yeah.
There's like a sense of pride. And the winner would always get a brand new ball. But they would never bring it to practice.
Yeah.
They wanted that dirty ball.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Yeah, I have a player who does like 3 bicycles every practice. And I don't want to tell him not to do it, because it's him expressing himself. And it shows up in other ways besides bicycle kicks, And it's just like, that's what makes you you.
Yeah.
And it sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't, but I don't want to coach it out of him.
Yeah.
Yeah. Coach the creativity and the individual out of it.
It's hard. And I mean, some coaches even take it a step further with like joystick coaching. And I love like the simplicity of like, eyes up, let's problem solve.
Yeah.
Hey, let's do you. Have some fun with it. Be confident.
Yeah.
And it just changes the way these players problem solve. Because if they could do that at a young age, just sky's the limit. Sky's the limit.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of choreographed play.
Yeah.
And it's just like, yeah, it's winning, it's successful, it looks nice, but are the kids learning deeply?
Yeah, well, it's really funny because one of the coaches in our club, we go back and forth and back and forth. And I did it as well with another guest that you have. Just like, when are you teaching different things? Mm-hmm. And, because I'm like, I'm just going to do 1v1s like crazy with these kids at a young age. Yeah, well, what about connecting? What about being able to, well, let's get them technically proficient enough to be able to do whatever they need 1v1, because you have to problem solve 1v1. Whether it's where your first touch takes you or, how you need to position your body to be able to connect that pass. But you could kind of go either way with that, right? So there is a lot of choreographed soccer that is being played. But if you break it down and you aren't communicating with those players typically problem solve at a better rate than players that maybe don't play choreographed soccer. Because in order to play choreographed soccer, you have to be intentional. And you have to have enough of an IQ to be able to play in those sequences. So, to me, that shows a level of commitment to the system that's being played and the amount of time and effort that you're putting forward in that, which means they're probably working outside as well.
Hopefully.
So they have to be. They have to be technically proficient to be able to do it.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
What would you say, like, is your most effective coaching, like, category? Like finishing, passing, one-touch drills, 1v1, 2v1s. What are you best at?
Oh, that's a good question.
Getting them organized defensively, crossing in, headers.
Yeah, I would say earlier on in my career, it was definitely 1v1 defending and, situational shape defensively, because that was engraved in me as an outside back in college for 5 years, right? But later on in my career, and like one of the things that I was hyper-focused at the Eagles was just the overall development on the ball. And you're probably like, well, that doesn't really relate to anything from the soccer sense, but it instills the confidence. So I think for me, it's probably the 1v1 stuff, both defensively and attacking.
And what do you do to teach that? Do you just put them in 1v1 situations over and over?
Reps.
Yeah.
It's really cool because that's really an instance where you don't have to coach. You can make tweaks if you see a mistake a few times, right? So it gives you the ability of having free play in a team environment. So I love it. I've always absolutely loved 1v1 at all ages, because you have to have the ability to be able to break a player down, and you have to have the ability to defend 1v1.
I always tell my players, this was told to me I don't know, maybe it was in high school or something. We just had like a guest coach come tell us some things. And the one thing I remember is like, you have to have one move that you've mastered so you can get out of any situation 1v1. And I did. I mastered the Elastico. And I can do it anytime, any situation, and it works. Even when they know it's coming, it works because it just puts them off balance in a way that I can get by them. So I always tell my kids, like, just master one move that's going to, get you out of a sticky situation.
100%. Well, and it's crazy because I think the best move in soccer is the simple feint. Drop the shoulder.
Yeah. That's all Messi does.
Drop the shoulder. If you have the ability to master that and be in control of your body, you never lose the ball.
Yeah.
So, like, that's always been the biggest thing for me. Like, it's if you have the ball and you never lose it and your teammates are mimicking you, good luck to the other team. And if you have that desire to want to win it right back, have fun with that pressure. So,
What was your move growing up?
it was just this. I would just drop the shoulder and change pace.
Yeah.
I had decent pace, especially at the youth level.
It helps.
And I could hit the ball like a rocket. So
Yeah.
I just need a couple inches.
Yeah, I've got some speed on my team, for sure. And our fastest kid is our youngest kid. I coach 2010s, and he's a 2011.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, and he's just matured, early for his age. But he's lightning quick.
Love it.
And he's super aggressive. Oh, my gosh, great player. Great player to have.
That's awesome. The thoughts of just free play, man. We could go deep in free play, but that's okay.
Keep talking about it. Yeah, so tell me your thoughts on free play and why it's so important.
Yeah, I think when it comes to free play, it's the easiest, most effective way to be able to get players to get more touches on the ball, which in turn is going to get them more confident on the ball, which in turn makes it easier from like the team environment perspective once they get there.
Can we define free play quickly? Is it a scrimmage? Are we talking about 5v5, 10v10? What are we looking at? What are we talking about?
Love it. Free play. 3v3, 1v1, 6v6, no coach. It could be up against the bin. I mean, I love to travel internationally, and for a lot of them, it's just like, hey, the pull on the basketball court, you just got to hit it. So just free play is anything that is non-guided. Of course, if they're younger, you might need somebody to lay down bibs in a goal, but as you get older, like just going out there and playing. Just to increase the overall technical and problem-solving ability and confidence. I feel like as American players, we lack confidence to be able to do what we need to do. Because there's always that in the back of their mind thinking of, am I making my coach happy with my decision? Am I making my parents happy with my decision? And if 100% of your time is in front of a coach, it's difficult to be able to explore that. So, even if it's somewhere closer to the 50-50 threshold, at least 50% of what you're self-teaching is on you. And then it's in the coaching environment to make those fine-tuned tweaks.
So what day of the week is free play? Is it during practice? Is it outside of practice?
It's hard to incorporate it in the team training environment.
Yeah.
But it's on off days. So a lot of, practice cadence are Monday, Wednesday, or Tuesday, Thursday. So, any days in between that or Fridays, we're working on putting together a program for open play. But just to create like, hey, this is a safe space to go and do you. Mm-hmm. So any day, if you don't have a weekend game, get a text thread with some of the friends that you play with or kids that you go to school with and play.
When you say we, do you mean Surf is putting together something for the... That's cool.
We are in the works.
You're going to get a field? You have a field space already?
Indoors.
Because that's, indoors. Even better.
One of our big partnership was with Redline, and, they actually laid down a soccer field within the facility as well. So it's something we've gone back and forth with, and one of their owners is just really passionate about the game. So they put together an indoor like futsal style tournament this last weekend, and we're just looking on how we scale it and make sure that it's just done the right way, because again, it's not going to be guided by coaches. So we're going to make sure we have the right ages in, and it's a safe environment for the kids to go learn and thrive.
Mm-hmm. That's cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think, with all this rain, it's nearly impossible to fit all the teams on the fields or in indoor, and we need more spaces like that.
We do. And I hate turf fields, as I know a lot of purists do as well. But it'd be nice to be able to get some help from the community to have a couple turf fields. And I think there's enough respect amongst the coaches to be able to say, hey, like, let's share it. Let's figure it out.
That's what they should do at the other side of Kimball. They shouldn't put grass fields. They should put turf fields.
Yeah.
Because they use those all year. And Kimball wouldn't get destroyed like it is.
Mm-hmm.
It's a good point. What about trying to catch Messi at a MLS game? Are you a Messi fan? Ronaldo fan?
You have to. You have to be. He's just magical on the ball. I think we've been to be able to see talent like that is special. And for the amount of time that he's been able to do it, it's just special.
Yeah.
So definitely a Messi fan. Definitely a fan of what he's doing for U.S. soccer as well through the MLS. I don't know if there's any other player that could have done what he did, has the impact that he's been bringing to the table.
Yeah. No, he's changed the game of U.S. soccer.
Mm-hmm.
And it's fun to see, the young players play with him, but also look up to him. It's like, it must be a trip.
Oh, yeah.
To be his teammate or to play against him.
100%.
After all those years watching him.
100%.
Yeah. I think Beckham's done a great job with Ventura. Miami.
He really has. Well, it's funny because one of my teammates in college, Sean Franklin, was the 2 when Beckham played right in front of him at the Galaxy.
No kidding.
And I would just laugh because he would just make you run after you run after you run, getting around him as he just served balls in. But the impact that Beckham had on the game was also huge in its own regards.
Yeah.
And I think it's the impact, not necessarily on the field, but it's externally, right? Being able to bring in new fans to the game, new people to love the game. I'd love to be in a situation where, like, as a culture in America, soccer becomes our best sport, the sport that we all love. Gosh, that'd be a dream.
Yeah, I think we're third, maybe fourth. Football, number 1.
Football, basketball, baseball.
Yeah, I think we're fourth.
Yeah. Well, and hockey's doing a good job, too.
Street hockey is fun. Did you play street hockey as a kid?
I didn't. I didn't do anything but soccer.
Okay. Yeah, I had a varied experience as a kid. I went to the skate park a lot.
Nice.
Played in the street with the neighborhood kids. I always wanted to play football, but
yeah,
it was at the same time as soccer season.
It's hard.
Yeah. All right. Well, there's anything else you want to talk about? Any other?
No.
How about some favorite spots or favorite parts about Ventura County specifically?
Oh man.
You like to go to the beach? You like to go to?
Yeah, nothing better than being able to head to the beach on the nice days or even on cold days.
Yeah.
The vibes here are they're excellent. And then to be able to have some quality hiking around the area too is great. The people are amazing. Just mesh very well with my vibe and for my family as well. So it's been great for us. My wife's actually a Ventura native as well. So, convince her to move back to the area.
Where were you guys living before?
When we met, she was in the process of kind of relocating to the area, but we were living in Oxnard over in the collection, so not too far.
Yeah, okay. Just next door. Not
Just
like
next door.
another state or anything.
No.
Did you ever travel internationally or live anywhere else besides California?
Travel, yes. Live anywhere else, no.
No?
No. Spoiled by the SoCal weather, and
Yeah.
it'd be hard to get me away from here.
Yeah. It's special.
It is.
And culturally, it's just, I used to live in New England, and just, they don't wear T-shirts and sandals. It just wasn't for me.
Yeah.
But all right. Well, I appreciate it. I've been speaking with Ronny Shields of Ventura County Surf, or Ventura Surf, excuse me.
All good.
Thanks for being a part of the podcast.
Thank you, Patrick. Thank you for having me.